Hi, guys. This is Charlene. Welcome to today's episode of Inherently, where we talk about how empathy develops within adulthood. I am currently 22 years old, so I think that it's very interesting to, I guess, be an adult. I don't feel like an adult, I'll say that for sure. I still feel like I'm 18 years old. I don't know if that's because COVID hit right when I was supposed to graduate high school, or if I'm just like, this is just normal. Um, Anyways, can't wait till my frontal lobe fully develops at 25, and then everything will make sense. Um, if not, maybe I don't know. I'll have like a quarter life crisis, maybe. We'll see. I'll keep you guys, keep you guys in mind. Make sure I'll get an email checklist, and I'll send out emails to let you guys know. It'll be like an X or a check. The check being frontal lobe fully developed, everything makes sense. X being no, it doesn't. Anyway, I feel like within adulthood, especially, empathy is super important. You're interacting with so many different people from so many different backgrounds, especially within college. So it's really important to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I think this is one of Piaget's stages where it's oh, are you able to form? Let me look up Piaget's stages. Actually, hold on. Sorry, I lied. It's actually Erikson's psychosocial stages. And this is early adulthood, intimacy versus isolation. The virtue is love. And the description is the establishment of intimacy and relationships with others. So this stage of my life, I guess you could say, it's super, everyone's life, adulthood, right? It's super important that you're able to form those relationships. And in order to form those relationships, you have to be able to empathize with people. So I feel like that's been repeatedly shown in my forming of friendships and close friendships over time, especially during this time when everyone's super busy, but you still have to sort of make time for others, as well as relationships as well. Additionally, in this episode, we'll also be talking about older adults. I'm going to again reference Erikson's stages of development really quickly. So, middle adulthood, which is ages 30 to 65, the basic conflict is generativity versus stagnation. The virtue is care, and the description is contribution to society and being part of a family. With old age, which is marked by 65 and onward, the basic conflict is integrity versus despair, in which the virtue is wisdom, and the description is assess and make sense of life and the meaning of one's contributions throughout their life. So I feel like a lot of the time when you're young, you sort of disregard old people. You're kind of just oh, that's just another old person. And I talked about this within my ethics of beginning and end life class. And it's really interesting to see how much as a society we sort of disregard older people as they get old, and they kind of just blend into a class of old people, even as if they're not your parent or somebody that it's oh, that's just an old person. I think that's really sad. But in terms of their development of empathy and how it either increases or decreases over time, it's definitely different from adults, which I'll get into in this introduction. But I think it's interesting because it's sort of, I feel like as people get older, they get sort of stagnant in their ways. They can or they can't be, apparently, according to Erikson's stages of development. But specifically with the 30 to 65-year-old one, care is the virtue. Obviously, to care about others, empathy is a very important aspect of that. And to contribute to society and be part of a family, you have to be able to mentalize and think about the other person's position, put yourself in their shoes, and really be able to feel what that person is feeling. The later stage, however, 65 and older, is more self-focused. So maybe that's possibly a reason as to why older people are less likely to be oh, you young kids, they're always, the reason you can't afford a house is because you keep buying coffees. And well, no, that's actually, the economy is really bad. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But maybe that's a reason as to why they are unable to empathize with younger generations, as well as let's get into the neuroscience behind it. So I previously mentioned in the teenagers introduction that the two younger groups in a study, 14 to 85-year-olds, displayed higher cognitive empathy than the two older groups, and they overall had higher social functioning. In a separate study, a similar trend was observed with cognitive empathy as well as amygdala volumes, which is an important area of the brain that is utilized in empathy. In this study, specifically 140 participants ages 18 to 85 years old, so specifically adults, no teenagers included. When compared to young adults, it was concluded that the older adults displayed worse recognition of all emotions, and their global volume of their amygdala and its cortical and centromedial subnucleal volumes had impacts on their recognition of sad images, specifically with less or lower volume of that area correlating with worse recognition of sad images. And as I mentioned in the first episode, recognition of emotion is a very important part of empathic ability, specifically cognitive empathic ability. These results may provide an inclination as to why older people have difficulty empathizing and socializing with others as they age. Old age is a period of wisdom but undeniable deterioration of health that can impact the ability to empathize in certain respects. It was found that effective empathy increased within older people, but there were deficits in cognitive empathy, which may be related to social functioning. So just as a reminder, effective empathy is the ability to share the emotional states of others, and cognitive empathy is the capacity to intentionally adapt to the other person's perspective in order to fully understand their emotional and mental state, which relies heavily on theory of mind. And theory of mind is the ability to infer the mental states of others, including things such as intentions and beliefs, which relies heavily on emotional regulation and recognition. So again, older people maintain or even increase effective empathy. However, there are deficits in cognitive empathy. And this decline is related to the ability to interpret emotional cues and can be ascribed to limited ability for older individuals to form and maintain social relationships. So a lot of older people that are placed in nursing homes where they have to sort of create a whole new social environment very often struggle to create and maintain friendships. Additionally, because of the harsh environment of the nursing home, a lot of people are sick and some of them are dying. So, if you can make a friend and then that person could be gone. As well as this may be another implication as to why it may be harder for them to form and maintain those relationships once they're placed within new environments. In a different study, on a sample of 14 to 85-year-olds, it was suggested that the age differences in cognitive empathy may be due to differences in the superior temporal and inferior frontal lobes, which are connected to the limbic system via the insula. With different genders specifically, it was found that both sexes of older individuals displayed a decline in recognition of happiness and sadness. However, male participants showed a reduction in recognition of fear, and female participants showed a decline in recognition of neutral and angry facial expressions. In general, there is a decline in certain aspects of empathy in elderly people, but other components are higher and remain strong. So now let's welcome our guests.
Chamomile, what are your thoughts on empathy? Any other things? No? Okay, thank you. Hello. Oh my god. Okay. This wasn't working at first. Also, this is a really weird and awkward thing for me to do. I'm not really the type of person to just walk up to people and strike up a conversation. However, I'm going to attempt to, currently walking around campus in order to get some input about empathy and adulthood. I'm also going to go into the village just to have a variety of agents and stuff. This is really nerve-wracking. I'm also going to treat myself with a treat, hopefully also in the village sometime soon. Wish me luck. Thanks a lot, Consuelo. Okay, so I'm here with our first guest. Do you want to say how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 21.
So my first question is going to be, as you've aged, how much do you think empathy has played a role in your life, like over time?
I think I had a lot of empathy as a kid. I think it's interesting to think that empathy develops in a particular way, but I think that up until a certain age, it's hard to be empathetic. It's not something that you can teach per se. There are a lot of elements though that have to get you to start thinking about other people, and I think people, especially adults, can influence you into thinking like making considerations for what this other person might be going through and things like that. And so there were definitely adults who helped influence me into thinking about that. And I guess culturally, I had more empathy ingrained into me or taught to me. And I think as you get older, especially when you transition to college, it's very individualistic. So I wouldn't say like empathy is something that you have to practice and develop. And I also think people talk about it in ways that are weird. I think people think about it as something that is naturally given to you, like, or that you feel too much of what other people are going through. I think in reality, it's not. It is a skill that you have to keep practicing and developing, and it's important. And it's also not a burden placed on the people. I think that's just a weird discourse that people have.
I'm here with our second guest. How old are you?
I am 22.
Okay. So how much do you think empathy was emphasized in your household growing up?
I think quite a bit. I think that everyone in my house needed a lot of empathy at times because everyone was low-key silly, to say the least. But I think it was really emphasized. I think also like, I feel like empathy is free, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, above like, out of all things, if that's like the least you could do, you know what I mean? It's like if you can't do anything else for another person, like, you know, take them where they need to be, or like whatever, like you can at least like be kind and hear them out. And I feel like people should think about that. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. I'm here with our third guest. How old are you?
I'm 21.
So, over time, how much do you think empathy has like played a role in your life as you've grown older?
I think empathy has played an increasingly important role in my life as I've grown up. I think especially with like how I relate to my parents, and my relationship with specifically my father has been like super fraught. And I think like as I've like developed and matured, empathizing with him and like his journey and his childhood, and how, you know, his own ground, you know, impacted or impaired his ability to be a parent was something that was really just important in my life as I grew up.
And do you feel like, just based on that, you think empathy was emphasized in your household, like maybe more so with your mother, based on your relationship with your father?
I definitely think empathy was emphasized in my household through my mother. Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi guys, I'm here with our next guest. How old are you guys?
I'm 22.
Also 22.
Okay, so as you've grown older, how much do you think empathy has played a role in your life? Like, has it increased, decreased, or like experiences, etc.?
I think it's increased because like now I'm more responsible for like having more professional or like serious interpersonal relationships compared to when I was younger. It was just like not as serious. I think it's increased.
Yeah, I think it's also increased, like, adding on to that also just because, like, you get exposed to a lot more people and, like, you learn a lot about, like, other cultures, so, like, that increases your...
And then, like, do you think empathy was emphasized in your household growing up?
Yes. I think both of my parents work a lot with, like, people. Like, my mom's a therapist, my dad's, like, a chaplain, so, like, I think empathy is, like, really big in their work.
I think so, too. It was more, like, between... Yeah. I think it was. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was.
Thank you, guys. Guys, so far, I've literally only asked people that I know. It's really nerve-wracking going on to people I don't know. So, I'm venturing away from the SEC, even though that's where most of the people are on campus, from what I can tell. Even though I felt like classes were just getting out for, but I'm not seeing anybody outside. It's like 4:15. So, I'm moving more towards the village, just so that I can again increase the population's like age range. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to see more people ask me walk so I can get into the third question that I had prepared. Wish me luck. And also ask people that I don't know. So wish me luck. Okay, I'm gonna start by Marston Quad. Currently on that street by Pearson's. I don't know if you guys know that street. But I'm gonna start by Marston Quad first. Hi guys, I'm here with another guest. How old are you?
I am 53.
So given like your entire lifetime, how much do you think empathy has like played a role in your life? Has it increased? Has it decreased over time? Or just like
Great question. I hope that I'm more empathic now than I was younger. Yeah.
and then given that I feel like society is becoming more individualistic, do you think that empathy has played more of a like increasing role in terms of like your livelihood or in general like taking the world as a whole? Do you think it's played like an increasing role in like evolution, or do you think it's being like faded out?
Wow, that's a big question. No, I think it's like a primary emotion or force of human beings. I think we just understand who we relate to in different ways, right? Like I think when humans lived with a group of 40 other humans, you have a really different relationship than when you have like 2,000 friends on social media. But like I'm a professor here, and so having an empathic relationship with my students is super important because I have to understand how they're understanding things, right? And so the more I do my job every year, I get kind of more practice in that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, okay. Good luck.
Guys, that was really not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Hi guys, I'm here with our other two guests. How old are you guys?
19. I'm 19.
So over your lifetime, do you think that empathy has played an increasing role as you've grown older, or like less of an increasing role? Or
I'd say definitely more of an increasing role. I think I value empathy a lot more. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely value empathy more. I think that's like also just comes with like maturing and like realizing other people's emotions and like their value.
do you feel like empathy was emphasized in your household growing up, or not so much? And if so, like, do you have any reason as to why? If you would like to get into that.
I think it definitely was, but maybe not as much as other households. Like I grew up in a pretty traditional household, so like definitely respect and like I don't know, other like education and like there were definitely other values more at play in my house. But I definitely think I grew up like valuing empathy. I just think my parents had immigrants as parents, and like they just didn't have the same like I don't know, like real feelings with them and like the true feelings with them and like that vulnerability with each other. And so like my parents growing up, like we didn't have that like super like I love you like very huggy family. But, like I don't think I mind that, and they definitely have like other qualities that I appreciate about them. But like I think a lot of like the empathy that I've learned is from like friends and like hardships and like kind of just communicating through like hard stuff.
Yeah. Growing up, I feel like empathy and just like saying I love you and just expressing gratitude was one of the number one things in my household. I'm pretty close with my family, which I'm very grateful for. And yeah, just always expressing our love for each other has translated to my friendships as well. And as I'm getting older, definitely feeling a lot more gratitude for all the relationships that I have. And so, yeah, empathy continues to play a role in my life.
Thank you guys so much. Okay. Guys, funny enough, I've ran into laying down here. I'm here with our next guest. How old are you?
I'm 22.
Given like over time as you've aged, how much do you think empathy has played a role in your life? Has it like increased, decreased? And then do you have any like experiences you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was always felt a really pressing aspect of empathy kind of in my life. I always felt like, and actually to the extent where I still have these traumatic memories of things that happened not to me, but I was just present for them. And I actually got to the point where it was almost like I was fearful that bad things would happen to other people when I was around them. Like when I would see conflict rising between people, particularly parents and children. It was just like I remember as a kid being really distressed by that. I could just feel that connection. I think that might be as a result of my dad was a child psychologist, and so social skills training was always something that we really worked on. Not necessarily me working on it, but I was always helping kids with autism do it. I had trouble with it. So I just always felt like I had, but I think it goes beyond that. I think for some reason I always had an ability to kind of sense what other people were feeling. And I think my process has kind of been assimilating that into, okay, that's great, empathy is awesome, but it's more about what you do with it. Obviously, it becomes a problem if you don't have the empathy, then you can't do anything with it. But once you've already got it, it becomes a really tough process of, you feel all these things, but what are the best ways to go about, acting upon it and making the world a better place, even with all the tough things going on for people.
And my follow-up question is that I think that as a whole, society is getting a bit more individualistic. So do you think that empathy has played a role, like a significant role in terms of like your livelihood, or just like, if not related to you, like the world itself or society as itself evolutionarily? Do you think that empathy is playing an increasing role, or is it being like phased out?
I certainly think it's being phased out, and it's been a process of just kind of us seeing ourselves as this idea. You mentioned evolution, kind of the random process of emergence of novelty, right? There's no real reason we're here. We're all just kind of randomly mutated into these discomforting situations. And I think for a lot of people, and myself included, it led to a certain sense of existential dread growing up. It's you see all this pain in the world, and you're like, what is it for? There really is. I mean, there's no grand answer, and so that's why I chose to go into medicine, or why I'm planning on choosing to go into medicine. Frankly, I phrased this. I remember I was like 16, and it's purely just for my own mental health. Like, I don't think I could go about doing things that aren't for other people, or at least making the world a better place in some small way. I think the existential dread would just weigh me down at that point. So yeah, I think it has played that big role in my life, and yeah, it's just the individuality. It's almost, if you go the opposite way with that coping mechanism of, I'm really just going to focus on myself. There is no reason we're here. There's not any purpose to it all, and that I might as well get it for me. Like have as best of a time that I can. But yeah, I think there's two ways that we can take it. Not to say that I'm good because I'm taking it this way. I think it's two natural assumptions of the predicament that we're kind of in as society today.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, of course.
Hi, I'm here with our next guest. How old are you?
I am 34.
Okay, so given your lifetime and like over your experiences, how much do you think empathy has like played a role in your life? Has it increased? Has it decreased? And then like, do you have any like anecdotes that you'd like to share?
Sure. I think over my lifetime, increased or decreased, I would say there have been moments when it has decreased and moments when it has increased. So I don't think it's been a straight line up or down. I think when I am feeling stretched thin, I have trouble. But when my cup is full, then I can feel more empathy.
And then do you feel like growing up, empathy was emphasized in your household? And like, was there a certain parent that emphasized it, or like a sibling or aunt, uncle, anything like that?
I remember my dad pushing us to always speak from the I perspective and never blame. So I wonder if that's empathy. I'm not quite sure. So no, I don't think empathy was a huge emphasis growing up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, venturing into a village, I'm gonna say this is probably even more scary than being on campus. So I'm a little bit scared. Hi, I'm here with our next guest. How old are you?
53.
Okay. So, given your entire lifetime of experiences, do you feel like empathy has played an increasing role in your life, or less of an increasing role, or like a range? Do you have any anecdotes you'd like to share?
That's a very good question. I'd just say consistent, role in my life. Just trying to understand, kind of from personal experiences how others, lives have evolved, and aware, of that. So it's made me more present, I think, to other people's kind of experiences.
And then do you feel like empathy was emphasized in your household growing up?
Very much so. I think had a really solid childhood and upbringing, and my parents definitely kind of focused and emphasized being kind to others and understanding where others are coming from and trying to understand things from their eyes and experiences.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna keep going. And like I said, I'm gonna give myself a treat. Guys, there's like no one outside. So I'm gonna keep walking. Okay, so I'm here with our next guest. How old are you guys?
I'm 52.
32.
Okay. So over the span of your lifetime and your experiences, how much do you think empathy has played a role in your life? Has it played an increasing role in your life, decreasing role, consistent, or in any of those? And then do you have any anecdotes you'd like to share?
Absolutely increasing. Empathy is probably one of the most important things. It's a factor in humility and just the humanistic quality that I feel dwindling in a lot of people. It's not prominent enough. Part of what causes division in so many different groups. Empathy is a kindness and something that comes from the heart. And usually people who lack empathy lack a certain love for themselves.
All right, well, I'm about to give you some crazy. Everything that he just said, absolutely, 100%. When my empathy started as a little kid, I had roaches. And I used to save the roaches and get in trouble. So I wanted to preserve life, and I empathized with roaches, roly-polies, and other people. I think people get bullied when I was little. I seen people get hurt, and I always empathized with them at all times. And it started from there to all the way to where I am now in age. And I just care about humans, and I care about pets, and I care about animals. Okay, we back. What's the name of our podcast? Inherently? Oh, that's dope. And what does that mean?
You see it in children, like on the playground, when people who don't know any better. It's the experiences and the things that we're taught, the things that we're fed, that then makes us kind of block that empathy. A lot of times it's for self-preservation or protecting yourself, and like you said, kind of like the individualization. It's just at a distance, and it doesn't really foster the opportunity for it.
And how do we correct that? How do we correct that?
You tell me.
I'm used to doing interviews. I'm sorry. How do we correct it? We definitely got to have those tough conversations and not be afraid to put everything on the table and get to the root of why don't you empathize? What is the reason why? Like you were saying before that, like Mr. Rob was saying that you're born and you inherited with empathy, but there is a reason why you stop empathizing. You put a little black kid, you put a little white kid together when they're little, they're going to play together the whole time. They're going to take care of each other. They're going to empathize. But as they get older and all the junk comes into play, and then it stops. So we need to fix that part of society. How can we fix it? It's a tough question. But we're going to every day, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. Like we've been sitting here speaking to everybody, saying hi to everybody, regardless of who they are, race or religion. That's most of what it's going to take.
Earlier, that when we have the opportunity to get to know each other rather than, segregating into different groups and pass judgment on others, or, when we get to know each other just as people, that's where it grows.
Okay, well, you guys sort of answered the other question I had, so I'm going to ask you a different question. Growing up, was empathy emphasized in your household? And was a specific parent or sibling or role model emphasizing it? And then again, if you want to share any experiences that you have.
I grew up with my mother, and that's why I definitely learned empathy from. I didn't have a father in the home, but I grew up with my mom, and she allowed people to come over and spend the night and feed them, even when we barely had food ourselves. She never told anyone no. So I grew up with that same philosophy from her. So it definitely came from my mother.
For me, I grew up with my mother too. My mom was working most of the time, and so I kind of grew up on the streets and in other people's houses. But I was brought up with manners and, be respectful and gracious and grateful. I always was. So having dinner at friends' houses and, doing all that kind of thing. And I think the empathy is something that it was definitely part of my core upbringing. But one of those that like a snowball, it just kind of, I pick up more and more every time I interact with more and more the right people. And I don't let the negative experiences affect that. If anything, it demonstrates a greater need and value for empathy.
I'm also going to ask you guys a different question just based on the answers that you gave me. A lot of people do answer the questions, but they don't talk about like occupations and things like that. So do you guys have any like specific, I don't know, maybe experiences that might have possibly changed your view on empathy given your occupations, or like you felt like it really emphasized the need for empathy in that situation, or like you felt like you weren't empathizing enough in a situation, anything like that?
Well, it wasn't just an occupation. I had a conversation. I got in a fist fight with a skinhead, and we both went to the office. This was in high school. I got in a fight when he was an Aryan brother. We go and they tell us that we have to stay after, and we was waiting on the police and our parents to come. And I sat and talked to him for a full hour, and he ended up being one of my best friends in high school. So empathy definitely showed me where he was from. He explained to me that exactly why he felt the way he felt. And I got rid of some of the myths, and he helped me with some of the myths. But just like Rob was saying, being able to sit down and speak to him helped me change my whole view, even on a racist person. Even to the day, I don't get angry. I feel sorry for them. I empathize with them because I feel bad that they were uneducated and they weren't taught, and they don't get to see the beauty of other cultures because somebody taught them.
So for me specifically in work, so I mentioned that I work in organ donation and transplants, and presenting the opportunity for organ donation to the loved ones of somebody who's usually been declared brain dead. I had a 4-year-old little girl who was abused, so much so that she suffered devastating injuries and was declared brain dead. And there wasn't enough information as to who did it. And I had to speak to both the mother and the father, not knowing who was the perpetrator in the situation. So talking to the parents who did nothing to protect this little girl, took her life, but at the same time were the parents who lost a child, not knowing any of their background or, what caused them to be this way. If it was one or both, if it was one, the other still allowed it. So being put in a position where I have to be limited in terms of, or restricted on passing any judgment, and have to demonstrate that empathy towards parents who have just lost a child, and still be able to kind of support them through the process. That's definitely been one of the more challenging situations that I've had. Later to find out that it was actually the mother who did this to her, and did terrible things to her. The little girl was covered in bruises, cuts, even in her scalp, and her mother would cover up her cuts and bruises with like Hello Kitty Band-Aids, would write on her with a marker or temporary tattoo. So the psychological damage that went with that also. And as a father, I found it really, really difficult, but still demonstrated probably a more limited level of empathy, but that was definitely more challenging.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Have a good afternoon. Hi guys, I'm here with our next guest. How old are you?
I'm 32.
34.
Okay. Over your lifetime, do you think empathy has played an increasing role in your life, a decreasing role, steady, like up and down? And then do you have any anecdotes you'd like to share about your experiences?
I feel like as an RN, me being a nurse, that's like one of the biggest attributes you have to offer to the medical field. So I feel like I wouldn't be a good nurse if I didn't have empathy. So I feel like it has played a big role in my personality and leading up to this point.
Yeah, it's funny she says that because I'm actually in the healthcare facility as well. And one of the biggest ways we actually help clients feel comfortable and, recover and graduate from the program, empathy is actually one of the most important factors for them to get out of that. So I think it's very important for people to be empathetic with one another, to like grow and, feel loved overall. So
Growing up, do you feel like empathy was emphasized in your household? And then did one parent or role model or sibling or anything emphasize empathy or like share experiences with you?
definitely not. I was not a very empathetic family I came from. Everyone's like kind of doing their own thing. We're obviously like Middle Eastern, so there's maybe stigma about like people being empathetic. It's kind of like they just throw you out and go do your own thing. So kind of had to learn to love myself on my own and just like give that to other people.
I feel like I had an opposite experience. As far as my mom goes, I feel like maybe when it comes to my father, it was a little bit of a different story. Like he's more, like you said, being Middle Eastern, he was more of like the provider, like go, go, go. So we didn't really see too much with him, but I feel like with my mom, it was very heavily instilled in us. And her having 8 girls, like I said, a lot of things that go back to how you were brought up and like what life gives you. So I feel like just her having a lot of daughters, she had to have a lot of empathy with us. So I feel like it was actually instilled from my mom. And I feel like till this day, I still carry on heavily with that. And I don't know, I feel like you really can't be a good person without having empathy. You have to have it. Otherwise, what's the opposite of empathy? You're a sociopath, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys so much. Yeah. So far, everyone has been really nice. The story with the organ donor occupational workers was really interesting. And honestly, really sad. The story about the 4-year-old girl was crazy. Yes, everyone's been really nice to live with. It's less intimidating. I'm trying to get a more elderly person for people. I think the oldest I've gotten is people in their 50s. However, there's obviously older people out there in the world and they have more life experience. So I'm keeping on. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Guys, do elderly people not exist anymore? It's been like 10 minutes. And we only have like 10 minutes left of recording. At least that's how I'm trying to time it out. We'll see what happens. Guys, it's been like maybe over 20 minutes and I don't see any old people. Usually I feel like I see them all the time. Just walking around. Just walking on campus. I'm like, where did y'all all go to? Like, I don't understand, but I just said I'm gonna wait it out for a little bit. But guys, I'm here with our next guest. How old are you?
81.
Okay, so over your lifetime of experiences, do you feel like empathy has played an increasing role in your life, decreasing role? And then do you have any anecdotes that you'd like to share?
Oh my God, why are you asking me these questions? Empathy. Give me your definition of empathy.
I think just at a most basic level, empathy is sort of looking at another person and seeing things from their perspective and sort of sharing their experiences, whatever they're going through. So yeah.
Those feeling, no. I'm not that person that will say, oh, I'm going to listen to you. I don't. I don't think I'm a good candidate for you to be questioning.
That's okay. I need all types of candidates, so it's okay.
You've got a good ear. No, I kind of, I think it's trouble or whatever. I walk away from it. I don't want to hear it.
Everybody's their own person. That's okay.
As you get older, you just don't have the patience, to deal with things. And
So as you've gotten older, you've gotten less empathetic.
Unless I don't have the patience or the time, because I don't have that much time.
You have plenty of time.
Yeah, you think so. You hope so. You hope it's my son, so you hope so. What at your age, what do you feel?
I'm probably a 5 on a scale of 10 on empathy, I guess. Yeah.
So my next question, I guess, for both of you now is: was empathy emphasized in your household? I guess this is your mother, so maybe
my household.
maybe not so much with you. How about you?
In my household, yeah, it was. My mother was one of these really nice people that really, if she would think something off. If you admired her, she'd give it to you. If she felt bad for you, she'd do what she could to help you. I just sometimes I feel like people, hey, you made your bed, and I don't have time to make your bed. I do help you make it. But yeah, no, it was different. And my household was nice. But my grandmother is like,
Yeah, you're probably more your grandmother.
I am my grandmother.
Yeah.
You guys so much. Have a good one. So I got one person. She was really nice, pretty funny. I'm going back to campus though, because like I said, a lot of like LGBTQ work toward campus, take their like evening walks or whatever. So I'm sure like at least one more. I think their perspective is important, and I'm really trying. My little feet hurt, guys, and it's been really hard. But I did get my treat. But I'm ready to take my rest now.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you so much for all the people that contributed to this episode. The street interviews are really intimidating for me. However, I feel like I gained so much knowledge and so much insight on what adult empathy looks like for older adults and people within my own age group. I think that the answers that I was given align very accurately with the literature that I talked about in the introduction, and even the psychosocial stages that I talked about in the introduction. I think one of the most impactful stories that I've heard throughout this entire series was the one from the organ donor workers, and I think that just again shows that empathy is not a easy emotion to have. It's not an easy emotion to develop, and it's not, even though it's evolutionarily necessary, this shift towards individualism is not without grounds because of the fact that empathy is costly, and in a society where capitalism thrives and individualism thrives, you can see how evolutionarily we as a species would tend towards that because it's easier, it's less, less costly, and in a society where just affording housing, healthcare, and so many different social phenomenons make you feel othered and make you feel ostracized in society and also push you into that sort of survival mode, you can see how people would move more towards putting themselves first and not really trying to empathize with others. But I just want to thank all the guests again for all their perspectives and also emphasizing the importance and how they've seen mostly over time that empathy has grown to be more important. I did find it a little bit surprising that the older lady was like, no, not that personally, I don't empathize with people. But this again does align with the literature where it's kind of as you grow older, that empathy either kind of drops off. The affective form of empathy kind of drops off. No, I think it was the cognitive form I like. But also, again, her experience is very valid, and I don't think that applies to all older people. But yeah, I'm just thankful that they were able to speak with me, and I hope this, was an exciting episode for you all as well. And I thank you for listening.